जिगांसयापाययद् अप्यसाध्वी लेभे गतिं धात्री उचितं ततोऽन्यम् कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम. Anybody democratic? Oops, I'm in a temple. Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam jigam sayayapyayadda sadvi lebe gatim dhatyuchitam tatonyam kam va dayalum sharanam vrajema. Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam jigam sayatayayadad lebhe gatim datrimurchitam tatonyam kam va dayalum sharanam vrajema. Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam jigam sayapayayadapyasadhi lebhe gatim dhatrimuchitam Aho, alas, Baki, the she-demon Putana, Yam, whom, Stana, of her breast, Kala, deadly, Kutam, poison, Jigham Saya, out of envy, Apayayat, nourished, Api, although, Asadvi, unfaithful, Lebhe, achieved, Gatim, destination, Dhatri Uchitam, just suitable for the nurse, Tataha, beyond whom, Anyam, other, Kam, who else, Va, certainly, Dayalum, merciful, Sharanam, shelter, Vrajema, shall I take? Translation and purports by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I'm going to read 24th as well. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he, who granted the position of mother to a she-demon, Putana, although she was unfaithful, and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. Purport. Here is an example of the extreme mercy of the Lord, even to his enemy. It is said that a noble man accepts the good qualities of a person of doubtful character, just as one accepts nectar from a stalk of poison. In his babyhood, he was administered deadly poison by Putana, a she-demon who tried to kill the wonderful baby. And because she was a demon, it was impossible for her to know that the Supreme Lord, even though playing the part of a baby, was no less than the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. His value as the Supreme Lord did not diminish upon his becoming a baby to please his devotee Yashoda. The Lord may assume the form of a baby or the shape other than that of a human being, but it doesn't make the slightest difference. He is always the same Supreme. A living creature, however powerful he may become by dint of severe penance, can never become equal to the Supreme Lord. Lord Krishna accepted the motherhood of Putana because she pretended to be an affectionate mother, allowing Krishna to suck her breast. The Lord accepts the least qualification of the living entity and awards him the highest reward. That is the standard of his character. Therefore, who but the Lord can be the ultimate shelter? Text 24. Manye asuran bhagavatam stadhishe sambrambha margabhivinishta chittan ye samyuge chakshata tarkshaputram amshe sunabhayudam apatantam. I consider the demons who are inimical towards the Lord to be more than the devotees, because while fighting with the Lord, absorbed in thoughts of enmity, they're able to see the Lord carried on the shoulder of Garuda, the son of Tarksha, and carrying the wheel weapon in his hand. Purport. The Asuras who fought against the Lord face to face got salvation due to their being killed by the Lord. This salvation of the demons is not due to their being devotees of the Lord. It is because of the Lord's causeless mercy. Anyone who is slightly in touch with the Lord, somehow or the other, is greatly benefited, even to the point of salvation, due to the excellence of the Lord. He is so kind that he awards salvation even to his enemies, because they come in contact with him and are indirectly absorbed in him by their inimical thoughts. Actually, the demons can never be equal to the pure devotees, but Uddhava was thinking in that way because of his feelings of separation. He was thinking that at the last stage of his life, he might not be able to see the Lord face to face as did the demons. The fact is that the devotees who are always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord in transcendental love are rewarded many hundreds and thousands of times more than the demons by being elevated to the spiritual planets, where they remain with the Lord in eternal blissful existence. The demons and impersonalists are awarded the facility of merging in the Brahma Jyoti effulgence of the Lord, whereas the devotees are admitted into the spiritual planets. For comparison, one can just imagine the difference between floating in space and residing in one of the planets in the sky. The pleasure of the living entities on the planets is greater than those who have no body and who merge with the molecules of the sun's rays. The impersonalists, therefore, are no more favored than the enemies of the Lord. Rather, they're both on the same level of spiritual salvation. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Some of you are disappointed because the speaker got changed and they didn't announce the name. So I am Hemangi Devi Dasyanudasa. I go by orders. So I haven't spoken Srimad Bhagavatam in a environment like this in a little over 2 years. From speaking about 4 days a week to once in a little over 2.5 years. So I'm a little rough on the edges. And since the verses are invoking the mood of mothers, I'm requesting, but not like Putana, some, I guess, mercy towards me. Text 23, actually, it's a continuation of a conversation between Uddhava and Vidura. And in this verse, the couple of verses previously, the Lord is not referred to by any name just yet, because it's a continuation of conversation. It starts with a few verses ago, Uddhava referring to Krishna's Mukharavinda. He says, Krishna Mukharavindam. That being absorbed, the eyes are soaking in, drinking in the form of Krishna, especially his lovely lotus-like face, or lovely lotus-faced Krishna, Mukharavindam. And so the successive verses only refer to Krishna as in some other way, he or Tradhishe, Triya Adhisha, the master of the trees. In this verse, Yam, that is all he's referred to as, who? Kamva Dayalum Sharanam Vrajeva. And the first line has Yam in it, that person of who. The next verse also, Krishna is referred to as Triyadhishe. So just because Krishna is not referred to, he's referred to in the sense of context going on, as we say he or she, that person, that one. So that's one. That's why in this wonderful verse, Krishna's name is not there. Second, Uddhava is in ecstasy like anything, because the verse starts with Aho. So generally when we read, we say Aho Bakiyam. It is actually Aho. That is the voice actually behind it. He is suddenly wonderstruck or awestruck to such an extent that he says that asadhvi, here Prabhupada says unfaithful. So unfaithful in the sense that she's a cheater. Aho asadhvi baki. That cheating lady, Baki, she's referred to, Putana is referred to Baki because she's the sister of Bakasura. So the brothers were named Baka and Baki. Blame their parents for. Sometimes children say, why did you give me such a name? Baka and Baki. In fact, at home, if they were making mischief, Baka Baki, get here. So this Baki, Putana, asadhvi. And he in that ecstasy, he's expressing why she's asadhvi. Stana kalukutam. Jighamsaya. Then he gives, she's asadhvi because jighamsaya. Such intense envy is what she came with. Envy against whom? Not another adult grown up, but a newborn infant. Okay, we might say Prabhupada's purport sort of normalizes it. Oh, even if he's a baby, he's the supreme personality of Godhead. But let's just be like the residents of Vrindavan. It's a little newborn infant. Everyone is happy. They are celebrating in Nanda's home. And a very innocent looking, kind looking lady comes with such intense envy. And it's not just envy to pull another person down, it is to kill that infant. But comes as a very loving, affectionate mother. Jigham said that kind of envy she carried. Envy is generally equated with poison. A snake is envious because they're poisonous, or the other way. They are poisonous because they're envious. Jighamsaya apayayad. She nourished this baby. A mother nourishes her child because by that nourishment of milk, the child actually lives in this world. The feeding that the baby gets in the first whatever number of months or years makes the child so strong that they can go on to live 100 years of life. That's what the mother does in the first phase of nursing the child. So a mother's nursing makes the child alive and doing well for the rest of their life. This one came to kill that baby by the very act that gives life. So the word Jighamsaya is what we are expanding and sort of being a little shocked by. Apaya, she nursed him. Sthana Kala Kutam, a very deadly poison is what she had smeared her breasts with. What did Krishna do? He accepted. He accepted poison from her. And what did he give back in return? Lebhe gatim, gatim means destination, dhatri uchitam. Uchitam means very suitable. He gave her a very suitable position. Dhatri. We famously recite that verse that a person has 7 mothers. Adi, Adav Mata, Tata Dhatri. Dhatri means nurse. So I've been thinking about this word nurse. Generally, we have the connotation nurse means one who puts first aid or takes care of someone who's sick. But that came not because of the work, but the word nurse means to care like a mother for someone who is helpless. That is called nursing. A mother, when she's feeding the baby, she says, I'm nursing my child. So when we hear the word nurse, it's not the one from Kerala. There's a particular place in India where all the nurses come from that one state for some reason. And they rip apart the bandage with mercilessly. Not that nurse. but one who gives life, one who nourishes life. So Krishna accepted that poison along with her intention, which is atomic in size, compared to the envy that she brought with her as well. So in this big, Prabhupada says in the purport, in a big stockpile of poison, there was an atomic sized intention to be a mother to Krishna. That was the disguise. Not even the intention, but that was there. She came as a mother or as a nurse. So Krishna took the atomic intention and ignored the entire poison. Lebhe gatim dhatri uchitam. Tataha, therefore, anyam kamva dayalum. Is there anyone else as merciful? So it's a rhetorical question. Is there anyone more merciful than he, than the Supreme Lord, who has such a sense of reciprocity? There's another hidden thing in this verse. This is talking about the kindness and mercy and compassion of the Lord. We are Bhakti Shastri students. There's a famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, where Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Right? Ekam sharanam vraja. That is there in this verse also. Tato anya kam va means, is there anyone else? So it's ekam has been covered in this verse. And then he says, sharanam vrajema. Such lovely connection. Same verse, same mood, same intent, spoken from the side of a devotee. Why should I go and take shelter from anyone else who cannot compare to this extent of compassion and love than he, Yam? That's in the first line, Aho Baki Yam. First I thought it was about Baki itself, but it should have been Yam. But Yam is about Krishna. That he who, there is like none other who has the ability to shelter someone, even when they come with animosity. So what is not being spoken in Uddhava's ecstasy is in the next verse. In his ecstasy, he says that devotees are greater than anyone else. And the demons are greater. What? Manye asuran bhagavatam stridhishe. Manye asuravan. He says, I believe that the demons are greater. Why? Because the demons get to see the Lord on Garuda with his Shankha and Chakra. I mean, who gets to see such a form? I'll tell you two stories. Sripad Ramanujacharya's successor was Parashara Bhatta. And Parashara Bhatta once was sitting with his devotees and they were discussing Katha. And everyone was, because he's such a great, great scholar. Actually, he said he was the son of Ranganath himself. That's another story for some other time. So while they were having this discussion, a hunter walks into the assembly. And he's carrying a rabbit in his hand. And so everyone's attention obviously goes to him and they ask him, yes, why are you here and what's with the rabbit? He said, I'm a hunter. Every morning I go into the forest with my arrows nicely sharpened and I kill rabbits and deer. But today, as I mounted the arrow on my bow and I was about to shoot this rabbit ran to my feet and fell like that. And the moment he fell like that, I couldn't shoot the arrow anymore. So I don't know what to do with the rabbit. Usually we kill them, skin them, eat the meat and use the fur for something, but I don't know what to do with it. When Parashara Bhatta heard this, he went into a swoon of ecstasy and fell unconscious. So everyone there was bewildered. What's going on? So they sprinkled some water and I guess brought him back to the worldly sense of his where he was. And they said, what happened? He said, just see. This fellow is so hard-hearted. A person who intentionally goes and kills innocent animals every day, not just once by mistake, every day intentionally kills them. Even for such a hard-hearted person, when a rabbit falls at his feet, he is melting with compassion. If such a hard-hearted person can melt, What to speak of our Lord, whose heart is already soft like butter? How compassionate and loving must He be? Just to even imagine that, Parashar Bhatta was in ecstasy. That is the Krishna. That is the Supreme Lord we're praying to and seeking. One sometimes wonder, do I have His shelter? Here, if Baki can get what she got, we're far ahead, is what Prabhupada is saying in the purport. Devotees are far ahead already. Yet Uddhava in his ecstasy is thinking, I won't be able to see that Lord on Garuda. I forgot what's the other story I was going to tell you. Oh, yeah. In 16th century, in Andhra Pradesh, there is a great devotee of Lord Ram by the name Ramadas in a place called Bhadrachalam. Fantastic story. Anyway, long story, he takes the money of the Muslim king because he's himself a governor of sorts, and he collects tax money on behalf of the Muslim king. And he sees that Lord Ramachandra doesn't have a nice temple and proper jewelry. They're in a small hut somewhere. So he takes that money with the intention of paying it off later and builds this wonderful temple for Sita, Ram, Lakshman, and Hanuman, and makes a diamond necklace of about 2 lakh rupees, 200,000 rupees back in 16th century, studded with diamonds, and offers it to Sita and Ramachandra. Somebody complains, the Muslim king comes to know and puts this Ramadas in jail. And the jail is not some sort of cage, it's underground, about 10, 20 feet underground. And every day, and he was in jail for 12 years. And he only food that he got was a pot of rice. If you say 1 cup of rice, there was 2 cups of salt in it. And that's all he was to eat. He survived. Part of the reason is, whatever that also, he offered to Lord Ramachandra, and they say that it tasted like nectar for him. So anyway, from that cave, he's praying every day to Ramachandra and Sita Devi, and he wrote these hundreds of songs of that kind of calling out for their mercy. Beautiful songs. In fact, Ramachandra doesn't respond, so he writes to Sita Devi, can you please, when Ramachandra has finished lunch and is sitting down, is a little relaxed, can you talk about me? At the end of the day, when he comes to relax on the bed as you're massaging his feet, can you please talk about me? This beautiful song. So all these years of praying and praying and praying, one night, in the middle of the night, 2 effulgent beings appear in the dream of that Muslim king. And the king is in this dazed condition because in the dream he sees them. They say, my name is Ramoji and this is my brother Lakshmoji. And we have come to clear the debt of Ramadas. And here's the 200,000 rupees and whatever with interest, everything there, you should release him from jail. And just by the dream of what he has seen, he's in complete ecstasy, stunned like this, and immediately he releases Ramadas from jail. So Ramadas asks him, why? What? And then he tells him this dream, these 2 people showed up. And Ramadas becomes even more saddened and he says, I have been crying for 12 years. I have been crying for your mercy. You give that Muslim king your vision. I have not even seen you once. That fellow gets your mercy. That fellow, that terrible, wretched fellow gets your mercy. How to explain it? And that's what Uddhava is in ecstasy about. How to explain it? It defies logic. It defies anything. That he is so kind, merciful. Dhatri uchitam tatonyam Kam va dayalum. This sense of daya that the Lord carries is a feature that lies beyond the ability of language to explain. So we say he is the Daya Sagar, the ocean of mercy. The reason, because an ocean cannot be explained. It cannot be fathomed. Its breadth cannot be fathomed. Its depth cannot be fathomed. Its characteristics cannot be fathomed. It is what is visible is different from what is not visible. For example, even here, the Pacific Ocean is so deep that Mount Everest, if you turn it upside down, will not touch the ocean floor. So the ocean looks, of course, expansive. So we know the Lord is merciful. We have experience of His kindness and here, daya, the mercy that He carries. But how deep that daya is, how expansive it is, can't be explained. Only symptoms of it is available by His interacting with, let's say, Putana in this case, because Uddhava is giving Putana's example. Actually, Uddhava is giving a whole bunch of examples. And they're all the features or facets of his daya and his personality, and he has all these qualities. He's standing by Ugrasena on the side, as Ugrasena sits on the throne and commands the entire Yadu dynasty. Lord Krishna standing there, he says, attending upon Ugrasena. That same Lord is the one who became the messenger for the Pandavas. And messenger is like the smallest, most insignificant person. In fact, being such a person has great. Being a messenger is a very special, although very diminutive in terms of activity, has a very great stature in Krishna's eyes. Because Hanumanji was a messenger. Rukmini sent a messenger by which he made sure that Krishna and Rukmini got married. So Krishna also took the role of a messenger. Then there's an explanation when Arjuna and Krishna were sitting on the chariot. After the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, Arjuna saw the great Virata Rupa or Vishwarupa and everything, and he knew that this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna was sitting on the chariot and riding the chariot for Arjuna, and Arjuna was sitting there. His shoes were constantly touching Krishna's shoulders as they were riding the chariot, because he's sitting down there. That is the person who, we don't. And Arjuna was busy fighting, and Arjuna's shoes and feet were touching Krishna constantly, but that didn't matter to him. And then he's talking about how he's giving mercy to Putana. Then he's talking about the demons in general. They see the Lord coming on Garuda. Then what to speak of? What is not spoken is what to speak of. If the sense of wanting to serve or approach the Lord, if it's atomic in size, this is what He returns, then what to speak of? It's a little bit more than atomic. A little bit more than atomic too. It's not fathomable. So every shloka has what is called dhvani. Dhvani means what is not spoken. It is meant to be, dhvani is sound. If you're not in the room and you hear the conch blow, you don't see the conch, you don't see the person blowing the conch, but you hear the conch. So dhvani. Similarly, dhvani in a shloka means it's not said. The beauty of such speech is not what is said, but what is not said. And in this ecstasy, what is not said is oh my gosh, what is the fate of or the outcome of anyone who has favorable? He says asadvi. So if there is even the slightest feature of sadhu-ness, what to expect from the Lord? His ability to give makes Lakshmi find her limit. Right? When Krishna was giving to Sudama, Rukmini said, Lakshmi says, I have no more to give, so stop. So he can take Lakshmi to her limit. That is the nature of the Lord. And that is the Lord we are being, I guess, inspired to make a connection with, make a relationship with, and make a relationship of service. And service with the heart in it, even how much ever we can bring to it, that much heart of it. All right, enough said. Any comments, thoughts you want to add, please? Questions? Although I'm not so qualified for questions, but yeah, please.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the beautiful class. A couple of questions. The first one is, so in these two verses, we saw impersonalist enemies, they also get salvation, but not all of them. So there has to be some distinction between them also. I mean, so how do we understand this? Is it some karma, or is it the luck or karma of whom they are dealing with? For example, in this case, Ramdas or the
Hunter.
Or the hunter in this case, because he was dealing with someone. So how do we understand this?
Not all demons get salvation. Not all impersonalists get salvation. For that matter, not all devotees go to Vaikuntha just yet. Meaning, eventually, yeah. What he's talking about is what the demons have. I'll say it hopefully a little humorously. The pure devotees see Krishna face to face. The pure demons see Krishna face to face. The practicing sadhakas are struggling in between. Yeah. Because they have some, that is what Uddhava is saying. They have something that the Lord accepts. What is it? The intensity. Constant absorption, that intensity, although hatred, but it is very intense for the Lord. Unfavorable, not something we should aspire for or replicate, but what we can be inspired by is that, my God, the demon is such intensity that he cannot take Krishna out of his mind. I wish I had that intensity with wanting to serve. That's what Krishna says. Oh, intensely thinking about me. Kamsa was, like Prabhupada says, Kamsa was Krishna conscious, just not favorably. Every little thing, little sparkle that he thought Krishna came somewhere here. He could not see anyone but Krishna. Maricha, when he got shot by the arrow of Lord Ramachandra, he says, Rakaradini Namani. Any name starting with the word or a letter Ra, I only think Rama is coming. And he says, if you say Ratha before you say Tha, I know it's Rama is there. The sound Ra, that's it, like Ramachandra is somewhere here. That is the intensity. So we want that, we aspire for, we build, we cultivate that intensity. And because they have that intensity, they see the Lord in a sense of animosity or with Chakra and on Garuda. Whenever Garuda comes, there is some fighting there.
Very nice. This is another question. You spoke about this, understanding the dhvani of the verse. Now, we read verses, we try and understand, and hardly would understand even one bit of it. How do we understand this dhvani of the verse? I mean, how do we get behind what is written? I've heard people say they read one page and they meditate for 7 days. There are people like that.
We may have to meditate for 8 days, maybe.
Don't get any of it. And you just read and the verse is finished. And you move to the next one.
Just because you pour a lot of water for a plant, it doesn't mean it'll show leaves faster. If a plant is given proper nourishment, new leaves will always come. So it's the part of developing. The bhakti lata is to develop. We're very thrilled when one leaf shows up. Ooh, another leaf shows up. It's greater celebration. But that's what it is. And take a verse, and I like certain words. I think of certain words, like for example, aho. That's what I've been thinking about. I came to know that I'm doing class yesterday evening. The word aho is what got stuck in my head. So I was thinking, so then there are verses before and after. Aho. It's obviously studying and hearing. Dhvanis means you hear, the sound. Idea is you hear. And because we've studied Bhakti Shastri, Sharanam Varajema, the words are right there. I mean, it's like that. I don't know how else to explain. You just have to study and let the Lord inspire in different ways. I'm sure tomorrow someone else will sit here and can take this verse to a whole different meaning that I probably can't even scratch the level of. But that's okay. Wherever we are, whatever we understand, we appreciate. If it allows us to feel a little closer to the Lord, I think great job done already. Now, whether anyone felt it or not, I'm happy. I got a chance to read and think about a verse, and I think for me, my day is done. It's actually, I feel very enriched in my day just by this.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
You're welcome. Thank you. I think, yes, Shreya.
Couple reflections,
Sure.
and I'm hoping that you'll expand or you'll share your thoughts. The first one is in the Putana pastime, the starkness or the contrast is just so striking because we hear from Prabhupada that the closest you can get to spiritual love is a mother's love. And that is what is used as this weapon or
Guys.
shield, the guise. The guise is, what is purest. And then it's, so the contrast really strikes. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I believe, says that Putana represents our cheating mentality and our cheating tendency. So I was wondering if you would be willing to, drive it a little home in terms of, in us. I'm going back to Maharaj was talking about refinement and, 7,000, further refinement. And overtly, the cheating tendencies are, somewhat, and yet there's so much subtle cheating tendency, so much performative devotional service. Just wondering if you could share some thoughts on that.
Putana represents those who, in the name of giving shelter, actually exploit their followers or those who are close to them. So that's a little farther. Then you brought it even closer as a mother. When you look at an infant, the infant doesn't even have enough strength in their spine or neck to hold their head. So we hold their head. It is so helpless. Similarly, the idea of, in Hindi there is a saying, "Hati ke daant." Was that हाथी के दांत दिखाने वाले अलग है और खाने वाले अलग है. The teeth, the tusks that the elephant shows are not used for chewing. Only when the elephant opens the mouth, inside are the actual molars. But it shows I have great teeth, useless in that sense. The idea of duplicity is the world sees something about us, and the real is something else. And unfortunately, we bring that to bhakti. We can't wait for it to go away. It has to be going away by the natural sense of purification, by the strength of bhakti and Krishna's removal of that curtain. But it is there. It is there in. It is there. Never a question: do I have it or not? It's always a question of how much do I have it. And there are reasons or whatever that people see something in us, or we show people something, but the real us may be nicely couched or hidden. Yet Krishna is very kind. He accepts. He accepts that, okay, somewhere there is an atomic expression, atomic level expression. Something is there. When we become devotees, we become more aware of the blocks between us. The veneer actually is not like a glass wall anymore. For those who don't take up devotional service, the wall is a glass wall. They think, oh, there's nothing. But as we become devotees, the glass wall starts to become more opaque. It's visible. We see what's there. Unfortunately, we only see that and not in conjunction with the good that's also there, the spark, as we were talking yesterday. That is also there. But the focus goes so much more on the veneer of it that we lose sight of, no, but there's a shining, the spark. I am that spark. And this is actually superfluous to me. We think that this is me, the spark is not there. In colleges, when we ask the question, I mean, sort of a little humorously, there is soul and the body, right? When I walk from this side of the room to that side of the room, is the body carrying the soul there? Or is the soul carrying the body there? No, because the body is carrying. No, if there's no soul, the body cannot move at all. It is always that spark that gives movement. Any movement that is there in our life is because of that spark, who we are. It's not the matter doesn't move on its own. So that the attention goes on the veneer, the thickness of whatever that's there, yet there is a spark, and Krishna sees that spark. So he's called Saragrahi. Sara means essence. Grahi is one who takes or accepts or holds on to. Saragrahi. And that is our hope. And that is what makes us drawn to him, because he's constantly that Saragrahi. Therefore, Krishna is compared to a wonderful bumblebee that flies from one heart to another and extracts whatever nectar that he can. On a flower, you can't see the nectar. Only a bee knows that's there. So the cheating propensity or duplicity, or whatever terms we use it, it's there for, and each person has their own autobiography of why that is there. So there's not one answer why. Whatever is there, it's there. It's okay, it's there. That does not disqualify any person to come in front of such a lordship or such lordships, because it is actually Srimati Radharani who makes Krishna's attention go to that spark. Without her, without the Ladini potency, it's not something that the Jiva can access the Lord. And the Lord accesses the Jiva also through Ladini potency. That is why we all feel a sense of love, affection, the sense of being touched by the Lord. That is His Ladini potency for us. So, I mean, they're always together. Never when we speak one, it means the Lord cannot be without His Shakti. He's always there. But that is what it is. That despite whatever is there, still one is not disqualified. One is never disqualified. That's what's occurring at this point. Is that okay? Sure. Anything else?
I thought I really like the word you used, atomic, where the atomic gets magnified. It was just a really vivid way to think about it. And so His mercy is so unfathomable, even for those who have an inimical attitude. And yet, on the other side of the pan scale is, if we make offenses, that same merciful Lord, being merciful, we have severe repercussions to our own devotional life. So even though it's such a merciful process, it's such a razor's edge, and the caution and the moment-to-moment awareness, it needs to be so high that sometimes almost feels taxing, because we really can't ever let our guard down against our own tendency to make offenses. It's not, let our guard down against anything else. So, wondering if you could comment on.
We want the Lord to see somehow or the other that atomic expression in us. But when a person is intolerant of someone else's atomic expression, then it causes offense or whatever. And the Lord, out of His mercy, not just to me, but to that person as well, intervenes. So He's still merciful, as you said. It's still mercy. But it's not exclusive just between me and Him. It's between me and Him and many others who are also perhaps not more than atomic, maybe 2 atoms or 4 atoms, but more, or even if 1 atom or less than that, let's say, still. Just as I want that to be preserved, He wants it to be preserved with others as well. And therefore He intervenes. Anything else? Okay. All right. Thank you very much for this wonderful, wonderful opportunity. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande. All right, become